Quilty is brought to you by APQS, handcrafted quilting machines. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Clothworks, inspiring creativity with art on fabric. Hovels Sewing, when you need to cut it close, choose Hovels. B&B, our fabrics, your lifestyle. Quiltology, the urban quilt space.
Quilty.
Hello and welcome to Quilty. This is the third part of our three-part series on long arm quilting. Today we're going to talk about how to work with a long arm quilter. It's all about collaboration and communication. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the third installment of our long arm series here. I'm here with Ebony Love, and that is the best name I have ever heard in my life. By the way, I know you get it all the time.
Just don't start singing.
It's fabulous. Oh, okay, I won't. I promise. Maybe at the end. So this episode is about working with a long armor. We've talked about what it is. We've talked about what long arming is and how it works. But one of the most important things to talk about, of course, is how to get started with a long armor and how to work with them successfully. So you are a professional long armor, and just tell me about what it's like to work with a client who wants you to quilt their quilt top.
Well, it's really incredible because I quilt my own quilts, but I don't piece tops fast enough to really get a lot of variety. So what's really nice about quilting for other clients is that you're getting such a variety of quilt projects, and you really get to express your creativity on the quilt. And that's, the quilting is all about enhancing what someone has done, and not detracting from the time that they've taken to make a beautiful pattern. So
so you get to have your own creativity added to the process. And now when you're doing the designs that you quilt onto into the quilt, do you work with the person? You work with them as much as they want you to, right? Like sometimes do they ever say just do whatever you like?
Yeah, I had one client in particular who handed me a quilt, handed me a magazine, and told me quilt it exactly like this.
Wow, so they really knew what they wanted.
They really knew what they wanted, and I've had other clients that just hand me the quilt and say, do what you want.
Do what you like.
I'll see you in a few weeks.
So that's one of the first things that if you want to hire a long armor, you would first want to know, okay, what do I want to hire them to do? I'm hiring them to quilt my quilt, but in what way? What do I like? What do I think serves the quilt, or do I just want to let them run with it? So then once you have an idea of what you want in terms of that, how would a person get in touch with you or any long armor? Is it an internet search? Is it word of mouth, quilt shop?
Yeah, there's actually all of those ways that you mentioned. A lot of quilt shops, they may not have a long arm machine in the shop, but they usually are affiliated with one or more long armors.
Cool.
And depending on what you want and what your price range is, they'll have some selections for you. You can also do internet searches. That's how a lot of people find me to do their quilts, is they'll do a search and find my website. Word of mouth is another thing that you can use. Talk to other quilters, talk to guilds, and they'll have some recommendations too.
Great. So then once you know what you want, and you know at least what to ask for, and you know that you found a long armor that you feel good about working with, how do you prepare your quilt to give to them? Because it's not just throw it in a box.
Yeah.
Tell me about how to make a long armor happy.
Yeah. So, and I've had some that arrived kind of squished into a box. And one of the things that I can say is that you can send your quilt squished in a box, but you're going to pay for every minute that it takes for that quilter to fix your quilt and get it ready. Right. So there's several things that you can do. My top thing is make sure that your backing fabric is 4 to 6 inches larger than the quilt on all 4 sides.
Right.
So that means if your quilt is 50 by 50, your backing,
if
your quilt top is 50 by 50, your backing fabric needs to be at least 58 by 58. So that's 4 inches on the 2 sides and 4 inches top and bottom. That's the biggest thing that I can say. Make sure that your backing is a lot larger than your quilt top.
How about the batting? Do you send the batting, or do long armors have batting that's part of the cost of?
So most long armors will have batting, not only that they prefer to work with, but a lot more variety than you can find locally. So for example, I carry about 15 different types of batting. So I'm going to have a lot more variety and choices than you would find in a local store.
Sort of part of the service of your long arming is supplying the right batting for the project.
Yes. The other thing too is that batting just adds to, you need a bigger box.
Right.
So.
Exactly. And you're paying for that shipping. So it all kind of works out for you, the client, better. What about like puckers in the quilt or like borders that are like seams can't be too shallow, because then you need to repair that or you're going to have problems too.
Yeah, so one of the things that I recommend that people do is before you send your quilt to a Longarmer, make sure that you press the quilt top well and press it from the back. One of the things that that does is it helps you to clean up the little threads, especially if you have white, if you're using white or light colored fabric with other colors. You want to clip those stray threads so they don't show through on the block. So you have the opportunity to clip those stray threads. You're also orienting the seams the right way because you want your quilt to lay flat when it's being quilted. And it gives you the opportunity too to see if there are any seams that are starting to come apart, so you can fix those before you send it off.
That's really good stuff. And, you know, this is another good opportunity to mention that the better your patchwork is, and by better, I mean the more you're not crossing your seams, you're pressing toward the dark, you're clipping off those dog ears, whatever you can do to make your piecing, if you're piecing your quilt, more accurate, it's only going to help everybody down the line, because then your Longarmer doesn't have to do all that for you and charge you for it. So,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Time
and
is money.
You mentioned the puckers, and that is something that the more careful you are during the piecing process, the better your quilt's going to come out overall. So definitely check for square, check for puckers as you're piecing, and then you don't have this gargantuan effort at the end to try to fix it and make sure that it's square. We can. There's a saying amongst Longarmers that people send us things to quilt it out.
Quilt it out.
Quilt it out. They can quilt it out. And there's a lot of stuff that we can, if it's not perfectly flat, there are some things that we can do to help with that.
You're not miracle workers.
We're not miracle workers.
Right behind us, we have quilts of yours, and this happens to be the first quilt you ever long-armed, right?
Yes.
Tell me this. So this is all done on the long-arming machine, and this is freehand, right?
This is all freehand.
Cool.
Yeah, so the thread that I used, it's a variegated thread, which means that it changes color every couple of inches, and it's a thicker thread. So this is a heavier weight thread, so the stitches show a lot.
Right.
And this is just a really fun pattern to freehand because you're just doing swirls and spirals. So it's just really fun to do that in the border.
It looks really great, and that's one of the things you can ask your Longarmer about. I mean, it's part of the design process is, hey, I've got this darker background. I really want the quilting to show up, so let's use a variegated thread. Let's use a pink thread because I want the quilting to be really strong. And one of my quilts that was long-armed, I had a white background, and then I had these scrappy stars, and my Longarmer suggested we quilt the white with white and the stars with colored thread. And so they can do that too. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, we can absolutely change colors thread, and that's, one good point is that it really is a collaboration between you and the quilter. So feel free to ask the quilter for suggestions because they may have some ideas of something that you haven't even considered.
Yeah, it's really, really fun to work with them and be specific, and if you don't have a preference and you want them to use their expertise, that's a good idea too, right? I mean, say, hey, run with this and make it look fabulous.
Absolutely. And that can sometimes be the most fun because you don't really know what you're going to get back.
Yeah, that's awesome. Ebony, thank you so much. You're just fabulous. We'll have you back on the show sometime.
Awesome.
Be a
Would love
blast.
to do that.
Thank you for joining us on Quilty at Home, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Quilty is brought to you by APQS, handcrafted quilting machines. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Clothworks, inspiring creativity with art on fabric. Hovels Sewing, when you need to cut it close, choose Hovels. E&B, our fabrics, your lifestyle. Quiltology, the urban quilt space.
Quilt